In this video, I'm going to go through part A of the grade 9 math PAT. So I'm actually going to go through and explain everything. So the first thing that I want to show you is the Scantron. So with the Scantron, you want to make sure you are very careful with bubbling in your positive and your negative signs as well as your decimals. Make sure you're crystal clear on that because the machine is going to mark the Scantrons. If there's a mistake, if there's just one mistake, you are going to get the entire question wrong. So be very careful of that. Okay, so let's dive into our first question. So the first thing they're asking us to do is to figure out the value of these two equations here. Now, this is important that you know your exponent laws. So 2 to the exponent of 3 is really 2 times 2 times 2. So I like to say that exponent is like screenshotting the number, but you're multiplying it. So that's going to give us 8. And then of course, anything to the power of 0 is going to give us 1. So this is going to be 8 times 1, which will give us the answer of 1. Now, lots of kids do say the answer is 0 because they forget about that exponent law. So you want to be really clear about those exponent laws. All right, number 2, we're going to go ahead and simplify this. So again, we're going back to those exponent laws for this part of the PAT. We have an exponent outside the bracket. So I'm just going to zoom in on this to show you what that looks like. So when we have an exponent outside the bracket, what we actually want to do is multiply that in. So that's going to become 3 to the exponent of 8. And then everything else, I kind of can leave it on the bottom. So 3 times, I'm actually going to expand this bottom part out to show you what's happening here in case you're having trouble with this one. So I've expanded all of this out. So really I've got 6 3s at the bottom. And as for the top, I actually have now 8 3s at the top. So 1, 2, okay, and they're all being multiplied by each other. So now what we can do is we can cancel it. Now I'm a little cautious about using the word cancel, but what that means is the number on top divided by the number on the bottom can go to 1, providing those two numbers are the exact same numbers. So what that looks like in this example is every time I have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom, they're going to disappear a little bit. So that leaves me with just 3 times 3. So of course, 3 times 3 is going to give us 9. So the answer to this question here is going to be 9. All right, let's look at this one here. So we're looking at algebra here. We want to solve for x in this equation. So what I'm going to want to do is, I always say it makes sense to move the smaller x value. This one's a little tricky, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So we're going to move my smaller x value to the other side. So that's going to get rid of x here, leaving us with 1 equals 2x minus x. So that's going to just leave us with x plus 2. Now I'm going to move the numbers to the other side. So add a -2 to both sides. Now it's going to leave me with -1 equals x. Or if you want to write it with x on the left side, that's going to be x equals -1. So our answer is going to be -1 for that one. All right. Let's go ahead and look at this one. So this one is testing you back from the things that you would have learned in grade 7 and 8, going back to those fraction rules. So with something like this, what we want to do is convert our mixed fraction into an improper first. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to, sorry, it's a little glitchy today. I'm going to try and zoom in on that, is we're going to multiply these two numbers together. So we're going to multiply that whole number by the denominator and then add the numerator on top. So what that gives me is 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 gives me 5 over 2. Now, one thing you might have noticed that I'm already doing, but I'm going to say it, is you want to make sure you rewrite everything each time just to make sure you don't make any mistakes. So I'm going to rewrite the whole question with my new fraction. 1 over 6 plus 1 over 3 plus 5 over 2. Okay? So that's our fraction there. Now we can go ahead and actually start to add them together. So what we need is we need them to have a common denominator, right? So that's where our denominators are going to be the exact same. So then we can keep everything under the same denominator and add the numerators together. So I'm looking at our numbers here. I have 6, 3, and 2. So hopefully alarm bells are going off in your brain and you're recognizing that those two numbers when multiplied can give us 6. So what that means is we can multiply this by 2, really just doubling everything on the top and the bottom, and we can triple this again with top and bottom. So what that leaves us with, and you're going to notice I'm rewriting it again, and that's going to give us 1 over 6 plus 2 over 6 plus 15 over 6. So now all of them have that common denominator there, so we can go ahead and start to add them together underneath that common denominator. That's going to give me 18 over 6. Now we do want it in simplest terms. So anytime you see this division bar, I want your brain to immediately think of divide. So this is going to be 18 divided by 6. So that will just give us a simple integer of 3. So the answer to this question is 3. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 5 here. So same idea as last time, except we have some positive and negative fractions, and we're multiplying the whole thing by 12. So, or sorry, it's actually all multiplication with this one. So what I'm gonna say is in order to multiply fractions, the trick that I always say is we multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. So that's going to become 1 over 6 times 12. Now remember that a negative times a negative gives us a positive. So that's why this becomes positive 1 over 6. And then we're multiplying it by 12. So 12 is a whole number. It's up to you how you see this, but I'm just going to turn it into a fraction by popping a 1 underneath it. So now I've got top times top, bottom times bottom. So that's going to give me 12 over 6. Again, we've got that fraction bar, so we want our brain to go to division. 12 divided by 6, well, that's just going to give us 2. So there's our answer. Okay, so number 6, we need to solve for x in this equation, and they are telling us we need to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to put a little star on that so I remember to do that, because like I said before, in that Scantron sheet, if you make an error by bubbling the wrong answer, unfortunately the entire question is going to be marked wrong. So keep that in mind. Let's look at this. So I have a number outside the bracket. That's going back to grade 8 math. Anytime you have a number outside the bracket, you kind of want to get rid of that bracket. You want to get rid of that number outside. So we're going to do that by distributing it to everything inside the bracket. So 2 times x will give us 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. However, we are going to subtract that from the equation, or from the 2x. And then, like I said before, we're just going to rewrite everything. Okay, this looks a little bit easier now. So we want to move our smaller x value. And what that does is it helps make sure we don't have a negative x. So that will go away. So that leaves us with negative 4 is equal to 2x minus 13. Okay, so now I want to move my 13 to the other side here. Okay, so I'm going to add 13 to both sides. That's going to give me 9 is equal to 2x. So remember, 2x is really saying 2 times a number. That means we need to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to write it with x on the left side. So x is equal to 9 over 2. All right, well, what's 9 over 2? How do I write that as a decimal? Because it's clear it wants it to the nearest tenth, which means they want a decimal. So the best way I can explain this is we're going to take 9 and divide it into 2 parts. The closest I can get is 4. And the reason I know that is because 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. And then we would have one remainder, if you remember this from elementary. Well, that remainder is going to also be split in half, leaving us with 4.5. So that is our answer for this one. Okay, number 8. So what we want to do is we want to basically add these together. This goes back to math that, you know, we were supposed to learn in elementary, but maybe we forgot, or maybe, you know, there was a global pandemic. So what we need to do for this one is actually line up all our decimal points, and then we can just do the adding as normal. So we're gonna add 0.05. Oh, let me line up those decimals. There we go. And then we're gonna, well, I'm gonna focus on these two first, actually before I minus the 5.45. So that's gonna leave me with 13.25. Nice and simple, we've added those together. Now I need to subtract 5.45. So 5 take away 5, well, that's gonna give us 0. 2 take away 4, I can't do that. So that means I'm gonna need to borrow a number here, and that's gonna make the next digit become 12. So 12 take away 4 I can do, that's gonna give me 8. 2 take away 5, can't do that, gotta borrow another digit. That's gonna be 12 take away 5, which is going to give me 7. So our answer is 7.80. Now, so that means our answer is gonna be 7.8. Okay, so I'm going to take a break from there. Be sure to keep an eye out for part 2 of the video where I finish the exam. Between now and then, if you have any questions or if you need some support, I do hold one-on-one sessions. So all that information can be found right there or in the link in the description. Until then, I wish you all the luck in the world studying. I can't wait to see you all in the next one.